Alright, so today gonna do a sort of see if I can find that other piece that I wanted to base it off, because that might be interesting. Maybe I posted it up somewhere. Maybe I'll just post it up later. Anyway, alright. Something a bit sci-fi-y. Somewhere halfway in between, I think, for today. Which is always sort of fun. A little bit Warmachine-y, I think, today will be. I'm not sure if I'll keep it square or not. I might adjust things a little bit. I don't like doing vertical stuff so much just because it's hard to look at on screen. But I'm not sure I want to do a horizontal thing, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, the Warmachine stuff was super fun to work on. So, getting a bit of that vibe. So how's everyone else doing? I know everyone's staying up late, probably, as usual. Hope it's all going well on your end. .30, yeah. About to shut down. It's alright. Well, I'm putting a go up on YouTube as usual. Bacon bolts. Hello. Do I have any recommendations for stretching or pushing proportions? Not really. So when I'm doing it, honestly, it's something I still struggle with a little bit. Especially, like, I don't usually have difficulties doing it in sketching, but then transitioning that into like a nicely rendered piece can be a challenge, because I sort of want to make it more realistic as I go. I think the most important thing is knowing, like, what are the important pieces to push and pull and what you should sort of leave. A bit more conservative. So, like, deciding what features are more important. So it's like heads, sort of shoulders or hands, when trying to get a little more stylized is usually the things that you push. And then edges, like trying to adjust curves to be more curvy, or edges to have like the difference between something in real life that would just sort of be like this. You can sort of get a bit more like punch to your corners. Usually helps. Or like, yeah, if something is sort of like this, then amping it up, like adding thickness to things is a great way of doing it as well. So like if I was stylizing, I guess that's not quite the same as proportions. I think keeping an overall like sense of the character too when you're doing it, like if you're doing something, you want to keep someone general, like you change the proportions that are more important to a character. So if I'm like doing a big strong guy, is like big shoulders, can have chunky legs, but shoulders are the same, little face. Or it's like a sort of sexy girl. Legs. Or you have like your fat dude. I don't know. Honestly, it's a lot of practice and trying to work out like why you're pushing the proportions that you're pushing. I don't know if that was helpful at all. Did look a little like Roadhog. I mean, that's what he is. Like the Overwatch guys have done a great job in emphasizing the proportions of the characters that they want to stand out. So like Roadhog is a fat dude, and he's got like that's his like emphasis has been pushed in that direction, and everything about him sort of supports that. Compared to like someone like Junkrat, who's like this super like complete opposite direction, or someone like Farah, who's even in the mech suits, like huge shoulders, sort of skinny waist and stuff. I think it's a great example of someone who's done it really well, and it's mostly Arn's fault. The rest of that team is amazing as well, of course. Okay. Kitties have not been fed yet, so be a little rowdy for a little while. What? Torbjorn, I mean, he's like one of the most obvious too. Like he's basically a dwarf, right? Blizzard is known for dwarves, so it's like he's the quintessential sort of dwarf, whether from Warcraft or whatever, and it's done in the Overwatch style. Okay. Oh, so sad. Bakira. And then that carries over to all of his equipment as well. So his turrets and everything. I think a lot of mine has mostly come from Joe Mad, probably. And then the rest of the Blizzard guys. Probably Glenn. As much as anybody. Cat, stop it. Just sit. If you want to sit, stay in one spot. Oh, really? Who's so hungry? Ugh. Shush! I am not feeding you tonight. Sit and start. Do I keep up with any new artists? Yeah, Ross Tran is awesome. I don't totally keep up with his stuff. I don't really watch his videos, though they are pretty amusing. But yeah, he's a great artist. I sometimes feel like yeah, I don't know. He takes a different approach to a lot of different. He takes a different approach to a lot of other people, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, his art skills are definitely awesome. Like he's a solid artist for sure. Yeah, he's so young. Aside from that, I mean, I'm struggling to think a little bit. Max Grick is amazing. I love his stuff. And it's really cool to see him getting like work on Hearthstone and stuff. Cause stop it. because his stuff totally fits that style. Ah, cat hair. Yeah, he's done a really good job of promoting himself too. So I think that always helps, getting himself out there. Which I'm sure is helped by having awesome art. It's not gonna work. Just promoting yourself doesn't work if you don't have anything to promote. It's Max. Yeah, his stuff's super cool. He is definitely like, he has gotten got a great sense of like stylization. If you're asking about that, like his stuff is, I mean, it's inspiring to me, even like for sure. He just has such a good job of like knowing what to stylize. How do I go about creating armor concepts? It depends. This is sort of based on something that I had an idea of previously. So I sort of have an idea in my head. I know I've got like a pretty, like this is a pretty standard sort of base to work on. That's like huge shoulder pads, which are a great way to start. And then you got like your sort of thigh pads, and I don't know enough about actual like physical armor. I really should do more proper research on like historical stuff, because it's really just based on what everyone else has done. That's based on real stuff, so it's like slightly too far removed, probably. So yeah, stuff like this. Obviously, our hands are off. One of our hands off the page. Our feet are off the page. It's a perfect place to start. Cheating already. You have to draw one hand. Here we go. But yeah, so I guess I got started doing some actual painting now. Looks like a body worker. Yeah, I do fall back on, and it is partly like Warmachine is very much like that, but the big bulky upper body with this head that sort of leans forward, and then it's not really anything of it here, but the suggestion of basically like it's gonna be sort of small legs down here is totally something I probably use a little bit too much. When did I start regularly practicing art? A long time ago. So, depends on exactly what you mean. Like, I started drawing when I was super young. My dad's an illustrator, so it was like, right, if you can hold a pencil, you start drawing. And so he encouraged that from a very early age. But, and I basically probably high school when I was like really started drawing a lot. I got interested in like comics and games and stuff. When I first like saw Joe Mad stuff and got inspired by that, was first like at the age where I was getting inspired by like StarCraft, Blue War. You can see Kitty here. And so probably, yeah, basically since like, well, we got out my first copy of Photoshop too, in about, what was it, 2000 and, God, it would have been 1999 maybe. So, I mean, I didn't start doing, like, painting in it for a very long time, but just getting started. Like I got started in Illustrator actually earlier than I got started in Photoshop, but but yeah, basically since like halfway through high school, which would have been like 2002 or so, I've been sort of just drawing a lot, and that was basically like, right, I know I want to like focus on art and take all the art related classes and go from there basically. I mean, like, kids all draw, right? So you don't need to be an artist to have started young. Like, it's almost just everybody does, and then the people who become artists are the ones who don't stop drawing. And it doesn't mean if you haven't drawn that much lately that you can't get back into it, but I think not stopping is a good sign of having the drive to like continue wanting to work on it, basically. And it's a sign of passion and everything. So no one ever gets into art being like, oh, it's a good career move, you make a lot of cash. Probably a little terrifying to be drinking out of a champagne flute while I'm doing this, while the cats are going crazy. Yeah, exactly. There are plenty of examples of people who didn't necessarily get started super early and still... Aha, the savior. Cat savior. A lovely wife to feed the cats and rescue them from their starvation. And maybe they wouldn't be quite so crazy. Oh, but yeah, there are plenty of examples of people who get into it late. Like, that's one of the things, and I think I've talked about this before, is... art is definitely not, like, an age. Like, you don't need to be young to get it. It's not a young person's game. If you're not in it already when you're 22, you're screwed. It's nothing like that. So, all good. I have not asked about streaming at BlizzCon, but I do hope so. It's something that has been brought up multiple times, and I think it would be amazing. Because I don't even get time to, like, see everyone's art stage. I'd love to see that. See how everyone works. It'd be great to watch that later. How are you not nervous? It depends. I mean, I've been doing it for quite a while now, so I'm sort of gotten used to it. I think the variations, I think once you sit down and get started, you sort of get into it, and it's not so bad. That's probably the main thing. I mean, it's not that different to like when you're doing art in a professional situation. Like, you need to be able to just draw even if you're not feeling great, or if you're like not feeling inspired or whatever. So it's sort of the same thing, really, where it's like, all right, well, I'm a bit nervous, but I know what I'm doing, and I'm sort of, this is my training. So so that sort of just kicks in, and people like do different amounts of preparation for it too. So people will like plan ahead. Sometimes, especially like, 'cause we started doing more like animators or like 3D guys who even if they wanted to, couldn't really finish something in a full, like, in the time that we're given. So they're like, oh, they've got something set up very specific that they want to show, and that makes it easier too. Yujimbe, hey, how's it going? Good to see you. Switching between brushes so quickly? Yeah, by default, comma and period switch back and forth, so so that's super handy. I've gotten used to using that. And the BlizzCon art contest is tough. Like, there's some good stuff in that. Tom waits. I don't know if we need this. Too rowdy. The competition in that, yes. Yeah, for sure. It is pretty insane how good fan artists are honestly. Every time we do a competition, it's pretty ridiculous. I mean, even when I first went to BlizzCon in like 2008, before I'd been hired at Blizzard, like, I entered the competition and I was like, nope, there was amazing stuff even then. I don't think I did an amazing piece, but was it BlizzCon? Maybe it was the invitational piece, but yeah, like, it's just gotten considerably better. Yeah. She's always awesome to see, and it keeps you on your toes as an artist, knowing that there are so many amazing people out there. Oh, I'm not saying, I think at the time my art was probably, the piece that I submitted was certainly not particularly amazing either compared to what some people had done. I think there's a difference between being a fan artist too and doing like art as a living every day. So like, I know some of those people spent like hundreds and hundreds of hours on those pieces, which is amazing. And that is the sort of thing that that is great, and like CDev does that, but overall it's not, there's not a lot of that in game design. So there are not a lot of positions for that type of thing at Blizzard. I'm not saying we don't hire people who can do that, or that fan artists can't necessarily do other things as well, but it's definitely a slightly different market. Yeah, so the emphasis as far as like whether you'll be working like in a production sort of standpoint. I mean, for like as an illustrator on CDev, it's not super about speed, but deadlines need to be met. But there's this huge amount of iteration and being able to work on model and to like time and other deadlines. And if you're on a game team, then it's like all about working as a part of a team as well as just being like a great artist. How do I deal with tight deadlines and stress? Honestly, and this is something that I learned in college that probably was not the best, but I feel like everybody learns it in college, is that I leave everything to the last minute. I don't leave everything to the last minute. Alright, that's a bit of a lie. But I will definitely work well under pressure. Like, if there is a deadline, like if I have ages to do something, then I'm like, I just put it off. And that's never gonna happen at work necessarily, because even if even if I've got a while to do something, there's always something next. There's always something coming up next. So sometimes some things might take a little longer than they should, but like if I'm not super excited about something, about some like UI or something, then maybe it'll drag a little bit, but it's never when it's in, like if it's time critical, then you just sort of stick your head down. And I don't have any great like methods for dealing with that. Just sort of do it. So here I'm sort of having a bit of trouble getting like a consistent style of armor going. Like there's this sort of like more mechanical bits versus this sort of like organic flowy shapes versus sort of very like chunky beveled edges. So I'm trying to sort of work out a way of getting it looking more consistent at the moment, as if it all like fits together better. So this is where something like this, I just like go and I'll leave that till later. Go and render something else that I'm more comfortable with. Alright, Fenrisk. Oh, yeah. Don't stay out too late. It's good to see you around. Good to have you drop by even briefly. Glad you could make it. Have a good night. Zero Ethic, thank you very much. Yeah, it's been fun streaming. Good to see everyone come out, good to chat to people that I don't normally chat to, since I'm normally so terrible at responding to comments and messages. Have I considered doing special versions of this for Patreon? Yeah, I guess I totally could do that. It might be one way of doing it. Extra stuff. I find... Yeah, I'm still trying to get a better grasp on doing stuff for that. I inherently don't like doing stuff that's too exclusive, which is sort of counter to the purpose of, or counter to like trying to get Patreon useful, I guess. And I don't like have a heap of time that I spend doing personal art. So if I'm already streaming like once a week for everybody, then doing another batch that's separate, like finding the time to get that in can be a challenge. But yeah, I really do need to work out some better ways of getting Patreon going. Getting more value. Yeah, I mean, I still try and put stuff up there. I need to just do more personal work, basically, and it'll be more valuable, honestly. Like, that's the main takeaway, is if I do more work, then I'll have more stuff to put up there. That's the long and short of it, pretty much. How do I control my values when I'm working from working in color immediately? Dark to light is definitely how I usually do it. Like I like working that way a lot more than though occasionally I'll do a grayscale, like a bit of a value setup, but usually, yeah, like I'll block in figures in dark shadows and then slowly getting the highlights working out areas that need to be like knocked back. I paint quite a lot like I would sort of paint miniatures, which is sort of appropriate for this sort of almost Warmachine type thing, but it's basically, yeah, dark to light highlighting and getting edges done, eventually sort of detailing it more. Again, like I'm probably getting stuck into too much detail too early. Without having getting like the values worked out enough, or getting rough values worked out. That's something I'll do now, maybe. This is probably something that I don't do enough. It's just like get a rough block out of the colors done. A lot of the time I'll just sort of go straight from like this basically, and well, do pretty much what you've seen, which is just like start getting details done straight away, and I don't block in like big areas of color soon enough. Which can be okay sometimes, but more often than not ends up being a pain in the ass to try and work out later. So Follow-up question, do I have any tips on balancing saturated colors in a piece? I think it's all about focus. Your saturated areas are always going to draw the eye, so you're going to want to have that like in areas where you're trying to focus the viewer's attention. And sometimes that can work in being like, oh, the super saturated background colors. But as a general rule, it's like the figure or the focus of the piece will be more saturated, and as you sort of drift outwards from there, it'll it would get less so, in a similar way to like how I would work with values, where I'm like having the lightest points around the points of interest. Never did painting or color. Yeah, no, don't feel bad. It's a big jump if you're just used to working in black and white, for sure. One good thing I find when I realize I've been sort of noodling too much is not zooming in, basically just working from here, and I can't then spend too much time on my details because like I can't get in and noodle too much. There's no space for it. Yeah, he's looking a little bit like that. It's not a piece for Warmachine, but it is definitely inspired by Warmachine. Inspired by a piece I actually started quite a while ago that I can no longer find, so I'm sort of redoing. any similarities to other characters living or dead is purely artistic laziness. I'm also archiving everything on YouTube as well, so because I don't think Twitch archives will last forever, but everything will be going up on YouTube also. No, Brian, thanks for coming out. You can watch the rest of it on YouTube. Have a good night. Is there a way to adjust the brush order? Yes. Yeah, you preset manager from either the brushes panel or the brush presets panel or the edit menu. So I have all of mine set up, like at the end of the ones that I use are set up at the end of my list. So it's like these basically 5 or 6 brushes here, the ones that I use. Wait, those ones? These ones. Are we the same? Anyway, yeah. Yeah, so this is a little bit like the first stream I did. This was mostly rendering metal, and getting things on the wrong layer. But it's still, I should probably be working things out a little better as I go along. Mostly what I'm thinking about with this sort of thing is basically just where are my shadows falling, where are the reflections coming from, and which bits of the metal are going to be like lit by the reflected light. Because those are basically the things that like will let you get metal looking like metal and not just looking like sort of plastic or something else. Anyways, like doing like painted bits that are flattened out rather than to contrast with the like super shiny gold. The paint is sort of like a chipped matte paint. It's always a nice contrast, I think. Do I have any tips for reflected light or backlighting? So a lot of the time doing that sort of thing in an illustration, you're actually usually cheating a bit. But most of the time it's all about like getting your background color blending in with your, like popping into your foreground. So like making this sort of thing look more like metal. I'll often be color picking from the background so that you have that sort of reflection that makes sure the entire piece works a little bit more together, that your colors are all sort of working together, and that even if you're not doing specific like mathematical reflection calculations, that it looks like, oh yeah, these bits of shiny metal are reflecting off the background that I can obviously see. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. I know he's rim lighting quite a lot, even maybe too much sometimes, but that can be a great tool for both getting a scene to sort of work together as a whole thing, as well as popping stuff off the background. So occasionally, like I'll use like this sort of green for a rim light, but I'll like brighten it up a little bit more, for example, and then that'll like pop in here, maybe So I'm like, so it's the sort of thing that will like match mostly with this sort of background color, but at the same time pop your edges off the background as well. So I sort of cut out and pasted that face in over the top so I could get there. So I could see that while I was painting, because I didn't want to have to redo that too much. Hopefully that was helpful. Doesn't mean I can't screw it all up there. Alright, let's go back to that later. Kronbobon, hello. Yes, Wednesday this week. Glad that it's helpful. Any tips for rendering hair? Practice. No. I think one of the biggest things is don't get too bogged down in individual strands too early. Like, you really need to find your masses early on. And then with that, basically that gives you a lot of your important shapes. So at the moment, like, this is very, very simple, but to get from this to something that's more finished, I would only need to like clean up these details a little bit more and add a little bit more detail into that, and it would read really nicely without like going in and rendering every hair. Niku, yes. Yeah, it's up on my the brush is up on my DeviantArt if you want to check it out. What's the story with this painting? So basically, Electro Paladin lady and her giant mech thing are out. Potentially after a battle, potentially before a battle, hanging out, looking cool. Jessica, hello. What's my favorite non-Blizzard game? It depends on whether you mean ever or currently. I just finished playing... Actually, no, my favorite recent game has been The Witness. Really, really, really loved that. Loved the exploration. It felt a lot like sort of... I played and loved the Myst games growing up, so I felt like it really recaptured a bit of that sort of wonder exploration, which was really cool. The island is beautiful. Yeah, it's all around great. Other than that, what have I loved? In the last couple of years, my other favorite games have been, like, not Blizzard-wise, probably, my favorite non-Blizzard multiplayer game would definitely have been, Battlefield Bad Company 2. That was just amazing. And I definitely have, like, the most hours logged into that out of any non-Blizzard game for sure. Yeah, I really miss playing that. That was a heap of fun. I thought the trailer for Battlefield 1 looked pretty cool. It's cautiously optimistic, maybe, but I don't know. It's been a long time since I've gotten into a multiplayer game like that. So even if it's awesome, I'm not sure how I'd like get back into it. Like, I really liked Battlefield 3. Like, I had a good time with that. I thought that was pretty cool. Played a fair bit of that. Did not play basically any Battlefield 4. So, I don't know, it's been a while. Like, I played a bit of Battlefront 2, and it was okay. So, I'm just sort of, like, probably gonna let it go a little bit and see if it's actually any good before I think about picking it up. I don't know. This is, yeah, getting into new league details here where I really should still be working on more important things. I set up hotkeys for flipping canvas manually because by default there aren't any. Alright, I'm gonna take a quick break. I'll be back in a few minutes. So, yeah, hang around. I'll be right back.